Are you making an apple pie? Or maybe you just want to eat a tasty apple? Well, don't worry, because I've got you covered. I'm going to show you how to slice them. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, my name is Dennis, and my wife and I are on a mission to help people realize that just because disease is common doesn't mean it needs to be normal. You have a lot more control over the way you feel than you think. And part of that control is eating tasty, nutritious apples and knowing how to slice them so you can do it yourself. Now, I'm gonna start by just twisting this stem off. You can skip that step if you want, but it's easy and it helps the balance. And then I'm gonna notice this is the bottom of the apple. It's where you got the little apple flower here that used to be there until it fell off. So I'm gonna take that and I'm actually gonna sit that so the apple's upside down. This helps the apple balance a little bit better. It rolls really easily if it's over here, but when it's upside down, it's a little more stable. So I'm gonna grab my knife, and right now I'm using just a standard kitchen utility knife. You can use a larger knife, smaller knife, whatever you want. This is what I got on hand, works really well. So I'm gonna grip the apple with my left hand, holding it in place, and with my right, just gonna slice right next to that core, straight down, kind of back and forth. I cut into the core a little bit, and that's very common on your first slice because you don't really know exactly where that core is, and so that's why we don't really care about it. We're not gonna fret or get worried about it, whatever. And plus, when you've got these little bits of the core in here, it's really not noticeable once you slice it and when you go to eat it. Maybe it'll be just a tiny bit of a tough part in the apple, but like I said, you're really not gonna notice it. So I'm gonna set that apart. And then I look over here and I can kind of see where that core is now. So with the apple in the same position, I'm just gonna kind of cut right next to that core, and I can get a little bit better that time, much better cut. Turn it, do the same thing one more time. And then for this last one, it's kind of pretty unstable, so I'm just gonna set it on its side there. Cut straight down. And there we go. Now the last thing on this core here, the core is kind of tough. It's not very good to eat. You can eat it if you want. You can also throw it in a compost bin, but there is a little bit of a fleshy part of this apple that's still there. So I want to cut off just that top. And this is a little, call it a chef snack. It's my payment for slicing the apple. So I set this aside. I'm gonna take all of my little apple chunks here, or rather big apple chunks. We'll start with this main one here. Again, I'm just gonna use that kind of claw grip, putting pressure down, and using my knuckles as a guide for this knife. And I don't want my fingers this way. I'm gonna cut my hand off that way. But just like this. This serrated knife that I'm using is very helpful because it punctures the apple skin really well. If I was using a straight bladed knife, it would, if it's dull, the apple skin's gonna be really tough. Apple skin can be, well, I'll keep it family friendly, a female dog, if you know what I mean. So I like to use a serrated knife. I'm just gonna go and cut maybe 1/4 inch slices here, maybe 1/2 inch, depending on how thick you want them. I'm just moving my hand a little bit back each time, using my knuckles as a guide. And when you're not demonstrating, you can do this pretty fast. Now this last one, it's a little bit hard to grip it. I'm gonna turn it around and just cut this last piece so I've got pressure up against these other slices. And there we go. Set this one aside, move on to the other pieces. Just keep them all in line here, it goes real quick. Flip that around, get those last 1 or 2 cuts in, perfect. And that's good enough for me. So the apple skins can be a little bit tough if you're giving them to kids. You probably wanna take these pieces off that are real skinny, not thin, but skinny, lots of skin on them. So set those aside, right? But the rest of these pieces, we give them to our 1-year-old, our 2-year-old. They love apples. But I do like to actually cut this skin into a couple pieces, just the top bit. So I'm just puncturing that skin because they don't really know how to chew that skin properly. You can hear my son in the background eating an apple, gagging on that skin. Not choking, but gagging. Yeah, don't worry. We're safe. You just want to cut that into little pieces, and then it makes it a lot easier for them to eat. But I do like to keep the skin on the apples because it increases your fiber count, which helps your bowel movement stay regular. And it's also just gonna add some more nutrients and a little bit of flavor complexity to the apple. Not too much, but a little bit, as well as it's gonna add some texture. So it's just more pleasant to eat it with the skins for pretty much everything except applesauce. But now I'm just rambling. So if you found this video helpful, why don't you subscribe to our YouTube channel for nutritious cooking, kitchen tools, and whatever else, healthy living. But also check out our Twitter, Dennis Scratch, if you want to see some more content from there. Otherwise, that's about it.